Here's a story that I shared on my friend Zane Fairchild has a great group page. It's all about Tony Rice related things. It's 58957, the Tony Rice Forum. And I shared this story with him the other evening, and it's about Kenny Baker turning down an invitation from Tony Rice to play on the Bluegrass album band Volume 6, the all-instrumental project that they did. For those that know and remember, that project had Bobby Hicks and Vassar Clements on fiddle. Well, Kenny been a friend to my family for a long time, and specifically my uncle Ron. He first got to know Kenny somewhere around 1969 or 70, somewhere along in there. And he had heard Kenny on records, but the first time he got to hear him perform live, he always said it was like a big tub of honey got turned over, hearing those big, thick notes and Kenny pulling the long bow. And he went and introduced himself to Kenny, and that started a friendship that lasted until Kenny passed away. I can remember when I was about 8 years old, my uncle got married, and Kenny was the best man at his wedding. And he was just always just such a fun and great person to be around. But this takes place, my uncle was visiting with Kenny, and he was at his house, and the phone rang, and Kenny looked at the phone, and he didn't answer it. And he said, "I'm not going to answer that phone." And I guess my uncle said, "Well, answer it if you need to," or whatever. And he said, "It's Tony Rice." He said he keeps calling me and wanting me to play on a record project that he's doing. And that would have been the Bluegrass album Volume 6. And so my uncle said, "Do you are you going to do it?" And he goes, "No, I don't want to play on it." So my uncle said, "That's going to be a pretty important record, and it would, kind of expose Kenny to more people that probably didn't know about him and his playing, because it had been some time since he had been playing with Monroe." And if you hear that sound, it's my little dog walking around in here. But he said, it would be a good thing, and Tony's fans and the audience that he draws is pretty wide and vast, and it would be a good thing for for Kenny to do that. But there was one thing that Kenny mentioned. He said, "Well, that won't help me any." He said that it'll help Monroe, because a lot of these instrumentals were written and or credited to Bill Monroe, and there still may not have been fences that that needed mended between Kenny and Bill when they had parted ways. And so Kenny just saw it as something that wasn't going to benefit him at all. But as a fan of music, I look back and I think that album would have had the three greatest fiddlers that Monroe ever had, with Bobby Hicks, Vassar, and Kenny. And man, what an album that would have been, with all of them. And I believe maybe back sometime in the early 70s that Kenny had toyed with the idea of recording a a swing album. And he had mentioned the possibility of getting Tony to play rhythm guitar and, of course, some lead stuff on a swing album, and that also never happened. And like I said, as a fan of music, we can just imagine and dream what those projects would have been like with Kenny. And one last little story. Kenny was visiting with my uncle, was at my grandmother's house, and my grandfather was a fiddle player and lived around Fairborn, Ohio area, and played a lot of music up there, but he was killed in a car accident in 1954. And in the living room, there was one of those long, that kind of looked like a panoramic picture of my grandfather and his all the guys in the Navy that was on his ship in World War II. And at the bottom of the picture, it had the name of the ship and the company number and all of that. And Kenny was there visiting, and he looked at that picture and he said, "I'm in that picture." And they said, "Oh, you're not in that picture." They said, "That's our dad, his Navy picture." And he said, "No," he said, "that's the ship I was on." And he said, "That's the company number or whatever and everything." He said, "That's the exact ship I'm on." And he said, "And I'm the so-and-so down here on the end with the big ears." So among all coincidences, Kenny and my grandfather were on the same ship in World War II in the Navy, and which adds another level of cool to all those little things. And so Kenny Baker, he was definitely one of a kind, and what a great musician.